let's talk about, what is it like to build a team? So generally, there are some investors that I like that happen to think that the founders of a company are kind of at the top of the entrepreneurial food chain. I mean, they're the ones that are going out there, taking the risk, taking an idea that maybe they've thought of for a very long time and actually deciding, yes, this is something I want to make real. I want to execute on this idea. And the idea that the founder still has this a little bit of a sparkle to it. So all of you, especially those founders of the accelerate companies or whatever, it's a special thing. It's not, founders are not normal. You're not. It's not like anything else. You can't say I'm a startup guy and joining a startup. No, you're a founder. So it's actually something to kind of embrace and be proud of. And in my personal opinion, and most of the people I talk to, going as a solo founder is a tough road. It's a tough road, and so I would generally say, more than one is good. And I think the band analogy is kind of apt here, where each of you has a certain amount of skill sets, and if you can get them, to complement each other, then you'll just things will go. No one's great at everything, and you have a better chance of covering your bases if you have multiple co-founders to kind of work on the different parts of growing up a company. So what's the most important thing that co-founders need to share? And 5-letter word, any guesses? Yes. And I'm not I'm not a CTO, I'm not the touchy-feely guy, right? I mean, so this is a very kind of like Stuart Smalley kind of word here, but it's just no fun, and everything is just more hassle-filled if you don't trust each other and know that everyone has the company's best interest in mind. If you're always thinking like, oh man, I bet you that sales guy, I bet you he's padding his expense reports, or he's going out and thinking about going out for meals and not thinking about the bottom line of the company. It's just this quality that you're doing a startup, you're going into battle with these people, and you are going to, every long way, you have to know that you can rely on them for every phase that you're going through. So if you don't have trust, I mean, maybe it's possible to have a successful company, but it's not going to be much fun, and in my opinion, not as rewarding. And really, the relationship between the founders kind of sets the tone for the whole company. As you grow the company, it all kind of goes back onto what are the fundamental kind of traits and relationships that the founders have. So if you're kind of building it on a broken relationship, it's just gonna magnify over time. So here are some questions that I often hear. So what should the equity split be between founders? It's kind of a loaded question. Usually it boils down to, should it be equal or not equal? Should everyone get the same amount, or should the person that had the idea get more? Or should the person that, okay, we're doing a co-founder, both of us, we want to start a company, but one of them still has, one of them's going to keep his day job at this consulting company while the other person, runs like a hamster and is building the product, and then when it's mature enough, then he's going to quit, and then you're going to start the company full time. Well, every situation is different, and every time that we've done it as co-founders, we always did it equal, because you want to make if it's not, there are very good reasons why it might not be, and again, every situation is different, but if it's not, then you have to start thinking about misaligned incentives, and one person saying and looking at an exit and saying woohoo, and the other person saying no, not yet, and I mean different people have different risk profiles and different ways of accepting what a good exit is or something like that. There's of course that, but tossing in different equity mix is tough. So no matter what, it's probably not a bad idea to put in kind of vesting restrictions right from the front, and certainly get everything written down. That's not something to just it covers all of you. So how's that for a non-answer? Sometimes equal, sometimes not. But in my experience, equal has been ultimately the way to go. Another one, I've heard this a few times. I've got this awesome idea. How do I find a technical co-founder? I think a lot of you are doing this already, which is you are finding someone that you trust that maybe has a technical bent or knows someone that's technical, and asking them, and kind of polling your network to find, given this kind of company, given this idea that I want, who's around. And believe it or not, you know, 5 years ago in Chicago, it might have been a pretty hard search. It's still a hard search, and it's still hard to find the right person, but not as hard as it was, and it's getting better, and it's getting easier. And in fact, there are probably these days almost as many people asking the flip side of the question, which is, I've got this really cool thing I've been working on, and I think it's worth turning this thing into a product, into a company. How can I find a business co-founder to help with this? So there are now some more efforts and organizations, including what Kevin's involved in, that is going to start to raise the awareness on both sides of this. So maybe there can actually start to be some good matchmaking here in finding it. But I would say find a trusted technical advisor. Toss them a thin sliver as an advisor role or something, or really nice dinner to go out and screen candidates or something like that. Just someone you can trust, because you're not going to be able to, in general, broad generalization, you're not going to be able to go and screen a technical co-founder and know if you're really getting what you need without someone that's got that kind of technical background to kind of ask the right probing, pointed questions. Because this is someone that's got to grow your company, identify the different milestones that you need to do, deliver things at the right points to actually grow the company. So it's not as easy as just like, yeah, this is this guy kills in Ruby, right? And that's all you need. You need a little bit more for that at the beginning. And then what are the differences between first-time and serial entrepreneurs? And actually, it's funny. Fred Wilson out of Union Square Ventures just did a blog post on this, which was like, it was great. And he actually used kind of the band analogy again, which is, why do so many bands have the sophomore slump when they do their second album? And kind of compared it to first-time versus serial entrepreneurs, which is, the first-time entrepreneur generally has had this idea and has incubated it and is passionate about it and is thinking about it 24/7, and it could be years before it's always been there, and then finally, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do the company. So there's generally first-time entrepreneurs are really idea and passion driven. Whether or not they can actually build a company remains to be seen. That's the flip side. Whereas kind of on the serial entrepreneur side, this is someone who, hopefully has demonstrated the ability to grow a company and grow a product. And so you're kind of looking at a serial entrepreneur as someone, okay, this is someone that's kind of figured out something about execution here, but do they necessarily have the passion? Are they so invested and so hungry for this for a particular idea, or they just kind of identify an idea and they know, oh yeah, that works. Let's build that into a company. So there are definitely pros and cons in both. And I think Fred's perspective was a little bit like, he likes both of them. He just feels maybe a touch more confident if someone's actually done it before and gone through. And again, from personal experience, I feel, man, every time I go through this cycle, I learn so much, and again, try to make learn from each time we do that. Okay, so your first hires. In general, I think your first hires need to be very comfortable. They need to be almost like stem cells, right? They need to be very comfortable with this fluid organization where you're figuring out actually what you're going to be. Okay, you're going to do a little bit of salesy kinds of things. You're going to do a little product development kinds of things, a little management. There aren't that many of you, and you don't want to specialize too soon. That was definitely one lesson learned in an early company, is like you hire a head of sales before it's appropriate. And all of a sudden you've got this cash drain on your company, and they're like, come on, give me something to sell, give me something to sell. If you don't have something to sell, they're gonna make stuff up and go out and sell it. And then come back and say, we got it sold, and this is what we're selling. That's not what we're building. So there's a little bit of that. So there's like this kind of a flow over the life of a company, which is at what point can you start to identify specialists. And then the other thing here is two things quickly. Different roles require different hiring techniques. And the technical side, I would say hire slow, hire very deliberate, because there is if you make a hire that's not quite right or is just the best available at the time when you're doing a technical hire, the problem is that they leave this, developers leave this footprint in your code base or in your code. And even if a few months later, this isn't working out, now you've got this legacy of crap in your code that you have to go out and like repair and change and things like that. Whereas maybe on the sales side, it can be more kind of hire fast, fire fast, or something like that. Where if something doesn't work, it's like, hey, you know what, this didn't work out, and they can be like, yeah, you're right, I haven't made any commissions, and that's cool, because there isn't like this kind of trailing effects. And then finally, here in the Midwest especially, sometimes when you're maybe trying to attract some talent to a startup that is maybe from a more established company, they might have a bit of in my opinion, skewed vision of what risk really is. And a lot of people I talk to, where they're kind of in a comfortable job, and then they're gonna join a startup and say, but it's really risky, and asking them, okay, what do you see as the risk? And the risk is generally, well, man, if this thing blows up in a year, I'm out of a job. What am I going to do then? And in general, with when we get to that point in the discussions and we're talking to someone like that, I'm generally like, dude, someone of your caliber, I mean, you're not going to have any trouble finding a job. You've gotten this far and all those screens or whatever. You're top notch. That's not the risk you should be looking at. The risk you should be looking at is, okay, yes, I see this as a startup, but a startup is a different environment. Are these people that I want to spend my life with for the next period of time? They should be interviewing you as much for the culture and the kind of product and the company that you're creating as you are of them. So usually I say, yes, it's risky, but make sure you identify the right kind of risk that you're actually stepping into. So I think going into that, if you are a startup and doing that, kind of having that conversation earlier and giving them that perspective might actually get them over that hump of that, oh, but I'm job security hump, right? Do I need a CFO? Eventually. Yes, hopefully. That really represents kind of a milestone in the growth of your company when you recognize that you need a CFO, and usually it's kind of associated with some financing event. It's like, okay, now we need a CFO to do that kind of stuff. But a lot of time up till that point, you can kind of make do with contracted accounting and things like that for all that kind of stuff. A CFO is kind of a big deal. It's kind of a, wow, we're a big company now. What about a distributed team? It can probably work. I've never seen it work for me. I like having everyone in the same room, especially when you're doing, if this is the formative stages, you're really doing the product creation and doing this, I like having everyone in the same room. Not only just developers, everyone in the same room. I hate cubes, like just tables everywhere, so you can overhear what the sales guy is talking about and what the technical sales guy is doing about, and the problem that the ops person is having with the servers and someone like there. Yes, I know some people need a quiet space and all that kind of stuff, but there needs to be this common understanding of everything that's kind of going on in the business. And sure, you'll reach a certain point where that's kind of infeasible, but haven't reached that point yet. We had at FeedBurner, when we were acquired, we were at 34, and we ended up having a split in 2 rooms, but both of them were just completely open rooms, so you could get the sense of activity and really what's going on.